Have you ever felt like you just don't belong anywhere? Like no matter how hard you try to be normal, life keeps throwing you curveballs? Imagine being a kid who's constantly getting kicked out of schools, always in trouble, even when he's not trying to be. That's Percy Jackson's life. And trust me, it's not because he's a bad kid. It's because the world he thinks is real? Yeah, it's only half the story. And the other half is the stuff of gods, monsters, and ancient legends you'd never believe. But let me tell you something surprising. Percy didn't even know who he really was until one terrifying field trip changed everything. So picture this. Percy's just a regular 12-year-old with dyslexia and ADHD, trying to survive yet another school year. But on this particular trip to a museum, his math teacher turns into a literal monster with wings and tries to kill him. And that's not a metaphor. She actually transforms into a fury straight out of Greek mythology. And in that moment, confused, terrified, and totally unprepared, Percy finds out his life isn't going to be normal ever again. His best friend Grover? Yeah, turns out he's a satyr. Half human, half goat. That's just the beginning. Now here's what's fascinating. Percy learns he's a demigod. Half human, half god. His dad? None other than Poseidon, the god of the sea. Which kind of explains why Percy always felt a strange connection to water, why weird things happened around him when he was near it. Suddenly, all those feelings of being out of place start to make sense. But instead of finally finding peace, Percy's pulled into a world even more dangerous than he imagined. The gods of Olympus are real, and they're not happy. There's been a theft. Zeus's master lightning bolt, his most powerful weapon, has gone missing. And guess who's being blamed? A 12-year-old kid who just found out he's a demigod. The gods are on edge and a war between them is brewing. Unless Percy can find the stolen bolt and return it before the summer solstice, the world could erupt into chaos. No pressure, right? But here's the twist. Percy doesn't go alone. He's joined by Grover, his loyal and awkward satyr friend, and Annabeth, daughter of Athena. Sharp, brave, and way more experienced in this demigod stuff than Percy. Together, the three of them embark on a cross-country quest that feels more like a ticking time bomb. From battling Medusa in a garden of statues to escaping the clutches of Hades in the Underworld, every step brings them closer to the truth and deeper into danger. This is where things get really interesting. Along the way, Percy starts to realize something powerful. He's not just running from monsters or chasing clues. He's searching for his own identity. For the first time in his life, he's not just some troubled kid who doesn't fit in. He's a hero in the making. But that doesn't mean it gets easier. If anything, it gets more heartbreaking. Because Percy's mom, who's the one person who always believed in him, gets taken by a minotaur and dragged to the underworld. Can you imagine? Being 12 years old, trying to save the world, and also trying to rescue your mom from literal hell? And then there's Luke. At first, he seems like the cool older demigod at Camp Half-Blood, where Percy trains. Luke's smart, skilled, and a natural leader. But not everything is as it seems. There's betrayal hiding in the shadows, and when it hits hard. Because sometimes the real enemy isn't the monster charging at you, it's the person you thought had your back. But let me tell you something deeply emotional. Despite all the battles and danger, the real magic of Percy Jackson is how it makes you feel. There's a moment where Percy is standing in the ocean, waves crashing around him, finally starting to understand who he is and where he belongs. And it's not about being perfect or fearless. It's about owning your truth even if the world doesn't get it. Even if you have to fight monsters just to survive another day. And it's not just Percy's journey that hits you. Annabeth, with all her confidence, is carrying the weight of living up to her mother's expectations. Grover, funny and awkward, is desperate to prove he's brave enough to earn his protector's license. Each of them is fighting their own private war. And somehow, in all that chaos, they find friendship. Real, ride-or-die friendship. The kind that isn't afraid to face death if it means saving each other. Now I know what you're probably wondering. Does Percy actually find the lightning bolt? Does he clear his name? And what about his mom? What about the gods? Do they believe him? Here's where I'll keep it real with you. The ending is packed with so many twists, betrayals, and emotional punches that you won't see coming. But what matters more than the outcome is the transformation. Percy goes from being a misunderstood kid to someone who stares down gods and monsters and says, "Bring it on." And through it all, the story never loses that feeling of wonder, that edge-of-your-seat tension, and that heart. Because it's not just about mythology or powers or saving Olympus. It's about every kid who ever felt like they didn't belong finally realizing they were born to stand out. So where were we? Percy's got the gods breathing down his neck, monsters popping out of nowhere, and a stolen lightning bolt that could literally start a war if it doesn't get returned on time. But here's what makes this part of the story unforgettable. He's no longer just reacting to chaos. He starts choosing his own path. And that changes everything. When Percy, Annabeth, and Grover finally make it to the Underworld, it's like walking into the darkest corner of a nightmare. The air is thick with fear, the river Styx flows like black poison, and souls drift around them like whispers of regret. But Percy isn't thinking about fear, he's thinking about his mom. About getting her back. And he finds her, trapped but alive. And here's the heartbreaking choice. He only has one chance to escape the Underworld. One person can come with him. And instead of choosing himself, he lets his mom go. He stays behind. That moment? That's not just courage. That's love. That's sacrifice. That's what makes a hero. But remember that curiosity loop? The lightning bolt? It wasn't with Hades. It was with Percy. The whole time. Someone planted it on him. Someone wanted to use him as a pawn. And when he finally puts the pieces together, the betrayal hits like a tidal wave. It wasn't just anyone. It was Luke, the cool, confident demigod from Camp Half-Blood. He was never on Percy's side. He was working for someone else. Someone darker, older, and way more dangerous. Kronos, the titan who wants revenge on the gods. Now imagine being 12 years old, holding the most powerful weapon in existence, realizing someone manipulated you into nearly starting a war, and knowing you still have to make it right. Percy doesn't run. He steps up. He returns the bolt to Zeus, tells the truth, and faces the consequences, whatever they might be. And here's the beautiful part. Poseidon, the father who was never there for him, finally acknowledges him. Not with hugs or speeches, but with something that matters more, respect. You'd think that would be the end, right? Mission complete. Mom's safe. War averted. But the story doesn't wrap up in a neat little bow. Luke escapes. Kronos is still gathering power. And Percy? He's offered something he's always wanted, a permanent place at Camp Half-Blood where he belongs. But he chooses to go back to the real world. To school. To life. Because even though he's faced gods and monsters, he still wants to live like a kid. A normal kid who just happens to be a demigod. And that's the deeper magic of Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. It's not just a fantasy adventure. It's a mirror for every kid who's ever felt broken, or too different, or lost in a world that doesn't make sense. Percy teaches us that being different isn't a weakness, it's your power. That the chaos in your life might just be preparing you for something bigger. That loyalty, friendship, and choosing what's right, even when it's hard, can change the course of your story. You walk away from this book not just entertained, but changed. With a new sense of wonder. With a little more courage. And maybe, just maybe, a voice in your head that whispers, "You've got this. You were born for more." Because if Percy can face down ancient monsters, trickster gods, and betrayal that cuts deep, and still keep his heart strong, what's stopping you? Feel like you're meant for more, but don't know how to get there? You're not alone. Every success story starts with doubt and a spark. The Self-Made Millionaire, Zero to Wealth isn't just a book. It's your roadmap to purpose, confidence, and success, built on real lessons from real millionaires. One reader said, "It didn't feel like a book. It felt like my future talking to me." Inside, you'll find the exact mindset and principles used by the world's most successful people. No fluff, just real, life-changing wisdom. Ready to take the first step? Get it 100% free. Just subscribe and comment "book" below.